Glenn Beck was recently diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and he says that it's so strong and devastating that he often feels like there's glass stabbing his feet and his hands. He says he'll wake up in the middle of the night and ask his wife, like, really, check to make sure there's no glass in my feet, because that's what it feels like. It got to the point where it was so bad that when he was working at Fox, he would have hand signals that he would give to the crew when he needs the camera to go off of him because he's in excruciating pain. So it's a really interesting story. I had no idea about this. Of course, I feel horrible for him. We may not agree with him politically, but of course that doesn't mean I would ever wish a guy physical harm. I never wish that on anybody. So he went to a private clinic and successfully got some treatment, but there's still concerns about what he has. He hasn't given away the exact name of what he has, and they're worried that it might come back. But listen to what happened next, because this is fascinating. Our friend Ed Schultz did a segment where he sent Glenn Beck some well wishes, and he said, get better. And he also explained that this is why we need Obamacare, okay? This is why we can't just leave this all to the free market. This is why we need universal health care. Here's Glenn Beck's response to that.
Ed Schultz tries to use this as a way to use my illness as a way to further Obamacare in the most ridiculous and third-grade argument I have heard. Listen.
Glenn Beck hasn't named his exact diagnosis, but says specialists found an autoimmune disorder and adrenal fatigue similar to Addison's disease. As Glenn Beck suffered excruciating pain, he had access, and he had opportunity to visit several doctors and undergo rounds of testing. He was offered treatment and guidance. Glenn Beck found help because he could afford it. Someone without insurance would not have the resources to see any doctors at all.
Nope.
Now, listening to Beck, can you imagine what that would be like? The Affordable Care Act, which the Republicans hate, give the American people an unprecedented opportunity for care.
Okay, stop.
But Beck...
Not to this center. In fact, they are trying. The governor of the state right now, Rick Perry, is trying to get the VA, because the VA has suicide after suicide after suicide, and these guys are helping cure PTSD in unbelievable ways and unbelievable record. You can see the difference. Have you seen the difference in Marcus Luttrell?
Oh yeah.
See the same man, Pat Gray?
No, not the same. No.
It is
Complete change in his life.
groundbreaking what these people are doing. Groundbreaking. So we have gathered together as friends of Carrick, and we have all said, okay, I'm in. I'm ponying in my money. This is what evil rich people do. I'm ponying in my money. Do you know any rich people that can help pony in some more money? So we can get the servicemen and women the treatment they deserve. Then the governor comes in. Governor, can you help get the VA? Is there any strings you can pull? Is there anybody? What do they need to show? And who can you talk to get the VA to actually accept them as a place to get treatment? The VA, you can't get this if you have government health care. You can't get this if you have private insurance. You have to pay for it yourself. This is the way it happens, Ed. When you have experimental stuff, the private market doesn't even want to do it. The private market says, oh, well, now, wait a minute, hang on just a second. No. And the last one to give you this is the government.
Wrong. What Ed Schultz is saying is that should be covered. That's his argument. They're purposely ignoring his point. What Ed is saying is if people don't have insurance and or they don't have money, they can't afford to do what you're doing, Glenn. So it's a matter of funding. Glenn is saying, well, it has to be privately funded. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. See, it shows a profound and deep ignorance of health care and health insurance systems around the world. Sure, there are some countries where it's publicly public funding going to public institutions. That would be Britain is like that, for example. That's the healthcare system that they have. But another way of doing it, like they do in France, for example, which is ranked the best in the world according to the World Health Organization, they have public funding, so tax dollars going to private businesses, private care facilities. So they have a somewhat of a hybrid system that's still essentially a universal healthcare system and a Medicare for all system where it's all funded by tax dollars and it goes to private institutions. You could do it either way. You could have public money go to public institutions or public money go to private institutions. And what Ed Schultz is clearly arguing for there is we should have the government fund healthcare, period. Ed just wants to give the same opportunity that you had, Glenn, to be okay and get through this to everybody else who doesn't have resources and doesn't have means and isn't capable of doing it. And look, the response from Glenn Beck is, well, as of right now, like the VA, for example, they suck. Glenn, you know why they suck? Because of Republicans. We covered the story the other day, how Democrats proposed a bill to create 27 new VA clinics, which would have certainly gotten rid of the backlog or gone in that direction of almost fully getting rid of the backlog. And if you need to create even more clinics, let's go back and create more clinics until we can get rid of the backlog. But you know who filibustered that? Republicans. So these guys block government health care, block fully funding the situation to make it better, and then they turn around and go, see, government sucks. Government's not the answer. We should privatize it more. And then what happens when you privatize it more? You fuck up the system more. See, what Glenn Beck is incapable of doing is being objective and looking at numbers. Because in the system that we had before Obamacare, now I get it, Obamacare is not perfect. We need to go further in the direction of a Medicare for all system, a true universal healthcare system. But before Obamacare, 47,000 people died every year because they didn't have access to basic care. So that's what your argument is, Glenn? Get rid of Obamacare, go back to a fully private system. So go back to a system where 47,000 people die every year because they don't have access to basic health care. That's what you're in favor of. But that's stupid. And also, we know, based on the numbers, based on the evidence, it's been in place long enough, 67,000 people had pre-existing conditions. They couldn't get coverage. Now they have coverage. That's because of Obamacare. 105 million people had a lifetime cap. So if they go over a certain amount of spending their entire life for healthcare, their companies could just kick them off. The insurance companies kick them off and they can go bankrupt, as many people do, because medical bills is the number one cause of bankruptcy in the U.S. But what does Glenn Beck say? Fuck all of the good, empirically speaking, objectively speaking, the facts that have come in that say Obamacare is a step in the right direction. We should go further in that direction. Fuck all that. Fuck all the numbers. Fuck all the evidence. Fuck all the data. I went to one place which allowed me to pay out of pocket to help with a problem I had. Therefore, the government's wrong about everything and fully privatize everything and fuck over more people anyway. That's your answer. Well, guess what, Glenn? Not everybody is a millionaire talk show host, so not everybody can afford to do what you did. What Ed Schultz is arguing for is to have the funding and put the resources to allow people to get the same kind of treatment you did.